Well, it's good to see everyone. Welcome into the King Jeff podcast. And our purpose for running this podcast is to create a culture that permeates everything that involves my life, your life, and the lives of others. This is an unbiased podcast. I care for people. I care for good people. Anybody who's against goodwill toward men, well, I'm against you. So that's, just point blank period, what it is. Like, we're raising up a standard, and it's time out for people allowing the opposition to just take up territory over us. Tyranny is not supposed to win over good. And I know that I'm fighting a good fight of faith, and I want good things for myself, my family, and others. Definitely the Black community, all communities. But I'm definitely prioritizing the Black community because that's the vision that God showed me. He showed me that he was going to use me to restore the Black community for his glory. And once Black people stood up and got in their rightful places, everybody else will take the right position. The people that have God complexes because they think more highly of themselves than they should, if the people who they tread on most take up a position and not stand up against it, that would in fact help those people who see themselves as they aren't, as kings and rulers over more than just themselves. So we're raising up a standard. Today I came on to just talk to the audience about where do we go from here. Today is, this is March 8th, 2022. We're in the year 2022, and yet we're still struggling with some of the same deficiencies that we've struggled with for centuries past. Why is that? It doesn't have to be that way. And I'm encouraging all those who hear me and those who hear you. I expect you to take this message and share it with others. I expect you to stand. Stand as I have stood and am currently standing. I'm a tough dude. I'm 51 years old, and I've lived from Florida, not too many places, Florida, Texas, Florida. But I've been around the corner. There's quite a few people who know me. There's quite a few people who's listening in. There are people who they see me in different forums. Being a tough dude is something that is meaningful to me. Because I'm tough, I'm able to compete in every arena. Of all the people who know me, this is the King Jeff podcast. I hate talking about myself. I do not need attention. My esteem is way up. I feel pretty good about myself, but I'm weak in myself, but I'm strong in God. So much like David, it ain't nothing that I can't conquer. Like, I don't take a back seat to nobody at any time. So my point is this. I'm encouraging you to take that same position. Don't cower down. Like, we want you to become your royal self. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. You are an individual who counts. Don't allow anybody to ever subjugate you under their own identity crisis. Because some people think that they are higher than you, better than you. They want you to follow suit. They want you to bow down. I don't encourage that. Do not ever bow down from anyone, from any pressure to become the lesser. So now, my question on where do we go from here? Dealing with the challenges of old today, March 8th, 2022, Garvey, Du Bois, Booker T, Bethune-Cookman, Harriet, Nelson, Huey, Coretta, Winnie, Murley, all of these wonderful, exceptional individuals, Garvey, fought this good fight that we're supposed to be fighting today. That's the major problem. The freedom fighters of old, the warriors of old, and not just talking about African Americans. If you're not African American, then put your heroes in that place. Those who have goodwill toward men. If your vision and your mindset is twisted, if you're racist, if you're sexist, if you're classist, I'm not talking to you. Like, we're enemies. I'm against what you stand for. So my point is this. If you have goodwill toward men, hey, pull back, learn from their past, and create a better present and future for yourself and others. As I look at my history, I originated in a place that's not in America. I understand that. And while I do not know all of the rich history that exists in who I am as a person, I'm valued as a person. I understand the strength and understanding that history and that identity. My name is Jeffrey Drummer. This is the King Jeff podcast. However, I don't know any African Jeffreys, so I use that name and I take it very loosely, lightly. Eventually, I will be renaming, but that's not the priority of my time right now. That's my own personal desire. But because I rarely focus on self, I usually focus on the collective, the community. I prioritize those things first and foremost. I'll get to that name thing at some point. So as I say, where do we go from here? I'm talking from my present circumstance. As I look back at our community, and the purpose for me coming here today was to speak to people that have goodwill toward men. You have goodwill toward men, then you should be rooting for me. You should be endorsing me. You should be at least liking videos, at least sharing the videos, subscribe to the channel, because I'm for us. If I was about me, man, I'd be doing different things. Trust me. I know how to make money. I know how to make time. I know how to elevate myself as a person. But why would I do that? I'm not interested in just myself. So I'll never prioritize just myself, just my family, just my kids, just my community. But I'm going to stay straight focused on what God showed me. He showed me how he was going to use me to restore the black community for his glory. And then everybody else was going to be restored as a result of them seeing themselves appropriately. We allow people to lord over us, rule over us by us being systemically dependent. Why in the hell are we still systemically dependent? For our clothing, our shelter, our housing. How did we get subjugated? We understand slavery, that was very traumatic in the lives of a people. However, it's March 8th, 2022. Talk is cheap. Anyone who thinks that we're much different in terms of empowerment, in terms of unity, we were more unified when we first came here than where we are now. Those people had a hope. They had a common vision to return back to that which they knew. What's our vision? What's our common connection? Where are we going? What's our commonality? It's not religion. Where are we socially connected like that and unified in our front to become a thing? I'll tell you. Currently, we're interested in athletics as a people. We're interested in vanity. All of the current trends are controlling us, from the hair to the eyelashes to the men with our longer beards. I've never done that. With certain cars, wardrobes, styles, trends. We're being controlled by the one percenters, the people who care the less for you. So from being brought to this country to now, we were controlled then physically, but now we're controlled mentally and emotionally. That's a problem. So now my question, where do we go from here? Well, we first have to have the conversation. We have so many people, whether they're affluent or depressed, it doesn't matter. We seem to believe that we're in a comfortable place. How were we able to get comfortable with shackles around our necks, our hands, and our feet? Having these mature conversations. Wow, look at my tooth. So sorry. I bit a cap on a drink some years ago, and now my teeth are becoming distorted. I'm still cute though. That's what I'm talking about. My girl Angie. If nobody else don't think I'm cute, Angie, whew, you my girl. Mwah, love you. Anyway, my point. Our people are delusional, but that's not what I want to focus on today. I want to focus on, like, so what now? It's very easy to talk about the symptoms of a repressed people or a people who's just current. Let's say that if you're not African and you're any other race and you're here now, you were a baby, just like every person who entered into the world. You were babies. You had no position on racism. You had no position on sexism, on classism. You had nothing. You were just selfish and wanted your way. You wanted food and you cried for it. You wanted to be cleaned and you cried for it. I understand that. You felt uncomfortable and you let the people know. Well, I'm telling us right now in 2022, if you're uncomfortable, let the people know. But let the people know who is worth telling. Let the right people know. Complaining and telling oppressors or people who are against you that you're feeling uncomfortable. I need to be clean. I need to be treated fairly. Those aren't the people to tell. Tell the right people. I'm here to encourage you today to tell yourself first. Look in the mirror. Say, I'm uncomfortable and I'm going to do something about it. Ivory, hey sis, love you. Thank you so much. But look in the mirror and tell yourself that I'm uncomfortable. And just like a child is strong enough and smart enough to do something about their position, I'm encouraging us to do something about our position. On this podcast, these are the things that we're doing. God gave me a vision and showed me how he was going to use me to restore. The moment that he showed me that in a dope house. My dope house. I don't hide nothing. Now, is that my very existence? Of course not. I've done so many things other than that little small period of time where I, got involved in that. But that was nothing to me. I was so good at it. I could have become really something in it. had I wanted to be around. But no. That wasn't the plan. Pay for college, get out of college, go back home, done with it. So my point, God showed me how he was going to use me to restore. He led me to create a nonprofit organization called the United Leadership Alliance and a for-profit organization called the Matrix Project Financial Group. Out of it, I've learned that it's very important to learn about culture, because that's what's pummeling right now in 2022. Where do we go from here is the subject today. Culture is very important. Culture consists of three major parts. Your visual artifacts, how your community looks, how your house looks, how you look. Your unwritten beliefs, the things in your mind that you learned from day one that was taught to you as being right. And this is so important because parents need to see these things. They need to know these things. Or otherwise, you're just parenting without any real direction. The third thing is your written documents. So God gave me the vision. He led me to found organization. He led me to understand that everything is cultural. Everything is cultural. After that, I understood the three parts of what culture is. And then it was like, okay, so I understand what visual artifacts is, the built things, the abstract things in our community. Now I understand what the unwritten beliefs are. As I look out in my community, I don't like what I see oftentimes. I see depressed communities, even within good communities that look good on the outside. Then I'm going to want to go inside and talk about what's going on the inside. What are our beliefs? As I look at communities and I see, okay, how healthy are the citizens in it? How effective, how much influence do they have? How well is the upkeep of their properties? You know, that lets me know what's going on inside the community. The third part of culture is your written documents. God led me to write the Matrix Project. And this is it possesses our cultural codes. These are the cultural codes for healthy people, not just black people, not just Africans, healthy people. All of these things healthy people do. That same power that Vladimir Putin is exerting right now over in the Ukraine. He's a sick man. However, what I'm talking about is in terms of the might, the strength to be able to defy the world and just go in and overtake a sovereign nation. That's power. Now he's nuts, but that's power. This written document discusses that can add to our culture to get everyone on one accord, the same way that we came here with a unified front. It was to escape. It was to get away. The same way that we were on point then, that's the same way that we can get back on point now. An agreed upon written document that can unify all of us. And this is for the purpose of empowerment and self-sufficiency. We're raising up leaders. Understand? So this isn't for entertainment. It's not for book sales. It's not for finances. It's for no other reason but love. I love my people. I love the Lord who gave me the vision. I'm thankful that he gave it to me. So within our written document, we're talking about 7 things, 7 key areas. And I'm going to fly through these because I discussed and introduced those once before. You can go to the Amazon bookstore or look at the description in this video. I don't know if it's connected, but you can go to the Amazon bookstore and get a copy of The Matrix Project. Yes, it's $25. We put so much work into this to give you a plan for like the remainder of your life, a parental roadmap, blueprint to everything that is true and existing in your world. $25, it's a lot to those who don't understand the value in it. And even me, I didn't even want to say $25. I had a choice, but it was like, okay, what's the return? Is that like, it's a workbook and it's much more valuable than that, but I didn't feel comfortable even asking for a nickel. I've given these things out in years past, well, in times past. I just gave one to a student the other day. But the point is, I can't afford to do everything for free. Like, we're trying to sustain and stay on this path that the Lord gave without getting entangled with employment in other areas. I was a teacher for 26 years. I opened a community center. Like, those are the type of things that I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I'm going to dedicate myself to empowering people and strengthening them. I don't worry about my finances. Guess why? Because if I create other millionaires, then I've served my purpose. The Lord showed me that I was going to be wealthy. That's secondhand. Like, I'm not worried about that. But the amount of give back or get back and how rich I am in the fact that I'm empowering people to become the best that they can be so that they can discover their greatest human potential, that's worth more than gold to me. So the 7 things that the Lord showed me: become as healthy as you can be so you can perform at your capacity. That's 1. Become effectively educated in books and in life over the things that concern you. If you're educated and you don't understand how you fit in it all, then that's a waste of time. The 3rd thing is become a part of a prosperous community. A prosperous community. You're a community just because you share like characteristics. We're black. I'm talking Africans, and I'm not going to go through everything. We're African. We're already a part of a community, but we want you to become a part of a prosperous community, a community that's thriving and faring well. And see yourself as a part of that community, and then raise the bar for your community. You exist in a place. Don't you want to be at the top of it? You want to be the lender, not the borrower all the time. Sometimes you have to be either or, but sometimes be the leader, sometimes be the owner, sometimes produce the good, lead the charge. Okay, so that's 3, being a part of a prosperous community. The 4th thing is accountability. Without being motivated to go get a thing, you will not be accountable. Accountability means to swiftly fulfill an obligation while being subject to an authority that is holding you to account. Swiftly fulfilling your obligation while being subject to an authority. Rather, the authority is a person, a group, the government, or a standard. When your children go to school every day, we want them to be accountable, swiftly get their work done while being subject to an authority. Well, that authority is that mom, that dad that sent them to school and said, do your best. And even if it's not a person, it's a standard that is called a grading scale. You can get a 100% on this activity, or you can get 0. So that grading scale is holding them to account. Okay. Swiftly fulfill an obligation while being subject to an authority that's holding you account. So the grading scale is holding you to account. If you don't do well, you fail. If you do well, you pass. Okay. The 5th thing is, so the 4th thing was accountability. The 5th thing is enduring legacy. What's your legacy? Find something that is worth living for, and then find something that's worth dying for. Make sure you leave a legacy for those who are following you. Rather it's your bloodline, family, rather it's your business, future, rather it's just an environmental thing. You want to make that room or that team or that position better than it was than when you came. Legacy. How well people think of you. Okay? And that's legacy. The sixth thing is economic development. And the seventh thing is community protection. Community protection is the seventh thing. Economic development, how much influence you have financially to get things done. In this capitalistic society, you know that economics is and finances is a major piece in this capitalistic society. You have to get it. Otherwise, you will not be able to provide and survive. Well, the seventh thing is community protection. Take on all threats that threaten the integrity of your community. You have to do it. Whether it's internal or external, rather it's somebody in your house or somebody outside of the house who threatens you. But that's what this whole community approach is. Where do we go from here? Where do we go from empowering ourselves in those 7 key areas? Where do we go from empowering ourselves in those 7 key areas? If you are a man, a woman, and you're looking to grow a relationship and you're coming together for the purpose of wanting to create a family, you have to make sure that person is healthy. Make sure that they're well. Make sure that they're healthy. Spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically, socially. That's mandatory. If you're selecting from someone who's unhealthy, then that means you're unhealthy. Did you hear what I said? I said if you're selecting from someone who's unhealthy, then that means you're unhealthy. If that person is spiritually unhealthy, and I'm not just talking Christianity. Am I a believer? Yes, I am. But I'm not just talking about that. We're talking about empowering a community that can stand. Eventually, I strongly believe every conversation through this forum is going to come back to Christianity. I told you, God gave me a vision. He ain't playing. He's a jealous God. But what I do know this is he's empowered me to see things he showed me and exposed things to me in a well way. You don't always have to come Bible thumping and and declaring, Christianity when you're on a forum like this. The same way that you couldn't do it on a school campus. Are you not Christian? Are you not Muslim? Are you not whatever you are on a campus? You still are. And that's fine. What up, Elroy? Good to see you, baby. Love you, man. But it's mandatory for you to be, intelligent, be wise. As an educator, I always talked about the things of God, but I didn't ever get called up or wrote up for preaching, evangelizing. Yet I was planting seeds and they came back in many cases. But the point that I'm making is, if you're going to choose someone, make sure that person is healthy, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically, and socially. If you get a copy of the Matrix Project, you can get more detail on what those factors are and how it connects to people and just tells you more about it. So we're not going to go in depth on this podcast, but I'm encouraging you to go pick up a copy for yourself. Make sure the person is healthy. Also, You're going to have to make sure, and not just talking about relationships, as we talk about like empowering this community, raising a community up to a royal level. Royalty is top class. This is the King Jeff podcast. Anybody who's known me know that I always handle myself like a king. I never walk around like I'm not a king. Of course, kingship is subjective. I never value material things. I can have $300,000 in the bank. I'm not wasting my money on a car or something that's not, well, I want something reliable, of course, but I'm not trying to go buy a Maybach or some mess that is unnecessary. And I see so many people with low self-esteem purchasing the Bentleys and the, and the Porsches and the like Teslas, like multiple ones. And I don't mean just like one vehicle. I mean like multiples. So if this is hitting you where you are, that's the way it goes. You should be more confident and you should feel better about yourself. That's low self-esteem that has to adorn yourself with all these material things so that you feel better about yourself. Nobody's fooled by you. So my point, I've always been a king. I've always acted like a king from ground zero to adulthood. I don't walk around flexing, but I don't walk around cowering down or taking a, back seat to anyone. In fact, when I speak, ears listen. When I act and I do, and I produce something or I present something. Wow, that was the word I was looking for. Whenever I present to community, it's always good. It's always good. Rather it's in ministry, rather it's in sports, rather it's on a job, rather it's just in community, rather it's in parenting, if it's in friendship, if it's in relationship. Hey, I'm always representing like a king. Always. And I wouldn't be able to say that if I wasn't willing to get called out on my sheesh. I'm willing to. But if you come, let's talk about it. I'm 100% transparent. That's the beautiful thing about when you're a king. You don't withhold things considering yourself. They overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. So I use my testimony to do good. I'm not afraid of, there's nothing that anyone can do to me. I don't take losses. So I'm fine with communicating my past or even my present or my struggles and my strengths and my victories so that others can learn from it. I don't have those hang-ups where you're so protected. You're so protected that you're quiet or you don't share or those around you can't feed off of you. You don't care about legacy. Caring about your legacy challenges you to share the things that you normally wouldn't. The depth of who you is in those places. It's not in you just telling someone your name or where you work or what you do. That's the simple stuff. Who you are, it's more is intrinsic. It's inside you. All that surface stuff, my name, what I wear, how I do, where I go, where I went to college, I have a degree. Those are surface things. And the sad thing is many of us identify with those things. Those things define us and who we are much more so than the internal you. And that's a problem. And that's one of the major things that we absolutely have to flip. That's what God showed me. And that's what we're going to do. He's good. out of nowhere. No one taught me these things. No one cared enough to share these things with me. Nobody else shared these things. And I know other people knew. I just wasn't the guy to share with, I guess. But for me, I'm sharing it with everyone around because I have good intentions for everyone around. This community has to get to a place where we understand how to become royal. That's what this whole podcast is about. That's what my organization, the United Leadership Alliance, is about. That's what the community center is about. That's what the Matrix Financial Group, which connects and networks with other like-minded people to give us an opportunity to pool our resources, share the risk, share the reward, and plant the things that we say we need beyond the talk. Everybody's talking, but in the community that I live in, people are isolated. They're divided. There is no unity. If we subscribe a plan that says that you can free yourself if you do these things, and if you make a few modifications, would my community do it? The answer is eventually yes. That's why I'm here, because I strongly believe that eventually, yes, people are intelligent enough to know when to do the right thing. Thus far, that has not been the case. And as of this point, there is no real evidence to say that that's going to take place. But I'm encouraged. I know what I saw in the vision, and I'm working hard to do what I have to do to make sure it manifests without getting in the way. So we expect our community to become empowered in those 7 key areas. Where do we go from here is the question and the purpose for this podcast. As it pertains to us being on a collective front, I need everyone to understand what culture is. Culture consists of everything that people do in their lifetime in a society. Culture. All the things that people do inside of their society. That's culture. Culture defines us. It defines you and your community. It defines your country. It defines your world. Now, we're not going to go over all the things that our present culture in yourself, in your family, in your community, in your city, in your state, in your country, in your race. We're not going to talk about them all because everybody have their own vantage points on what they think. But we're going to have to get on one accord on some things. And some things are pretty obvious. Where do we go from here? I'm coming from a perspective of we have to improve our current culture. So from that place, you could probably go to other presentations and they'll just talk about the good things. If you go to Joel Osteen's church right now, man, I tell you, I bet he's encouraging the hell out of you. Like right now, he's telling you how good you can be and how wonderful and blah, blah, and all those things. And I ain't knocking that, man. Like, this is not that show. But what I am saying is that you could probably get a different message that's not dealing with the overcoming, of negative circumstances. The message of, if any man shall follow me, he must first deny himself. Like, that's what this message is about. Like, yo, if you're going to get to that promised land, or if you're going to get to better, to prosperity, you're going to have to deny where you are. So I said that our people are delusional in so many ways, delusional or cowards. They've given up. They're totally selfish. They only think about themselves and their own welfare until they die and move on. Some people are just living out time. They're on a job, or they're making money and they're eating every day. Their family's doing decently, and that's all they think about. I've had people tell me the best thing they can do for the community is raise their son well, William George. And I had to beg to differ, to say, son, sir, brother, are you considering community? Like, no, that doesn't make sense, because that only involves you and your family. So that's not the best thing you can do. That's what Eric told me a week ago too. Eric Grimsley. Yeah, I'm calling you guys by name. That's what he told me as well. No. You're going to have to understand that you're part of a bigger picture. And you should care about the big picture, not just your isolated self. So, where do we go from here? We already know where we are. Everybody have their own vantage point. This is the first thing that I want to tell you to do. First, because we're not in one-on-one conversations every day. If I was your personal coach, your life coach, and we're going to be offering classes, going over the Matrix Project soon. But if I was your personal coach on a daily basis, or every other day, or weekly basis, then that would be great. It would be interactive, and we'll be doing a type of counsel, feedback, strengthening one another. It's not just one way. We'll be strengthening one another in dialogue and in interaction. But since we're not there, the best thing I can tell you to do is go and get the Matrix Project. If you get a copy of the Matrix Project, you'll soon understand that this is a very good blueprint to becoming the best you could be. I'm just telling you, it's true. Become the best you can be. And become the best you can be. And then we could then enrich the community as well. If you're weak and you're broken, it's going to be hard for you to empower others. But we don't expect you, as you build yourself, to only think about yourself. You have to build simultaneously. We don't expect you to get the matrix or work on yourself and then ignore your kids. I've seen that. I've seen muscle guys, big muscle guys, and I'm not going to call this particular individual's name because we just had a beef with one another. But this big muscle guy, he takes care of himself. He works out every day, but his children look like they never touched a weight in their lives. Like, who does that? What kind of man are you that you're self-serving? You keep yourself healthy. You put in all that energy to, make yourself healthy, but your children don't get any, residue from that, from your healthiness. That's weak. So that's a weak trait. As I said, and we're about to close, go and get a copy of the Matrix Project. Let's interact on that level. That's the first thing that I would say. Where do we go from here? Next, make sure that relationally, not even just not just intimately, because on this podcast we're dealing with 3 characteristics. We're dealing with relationships. If you're looking for someone and you want to meet a love, we want to deal with that. And as we develop the page, people are going to call in and we're going to do those things. We focus on relationships. We focus on business partnerships and community partnerships. Those are the 3 areas that we discuss. So I already said, go get the Matrix Project. That's step 1. That's going to deal with all 7 of those key pillars that I talked about. And all of these things are involved. Business, in our economic development section or chapter, community development in the entire book, and our in personal relationships. That's discussed in the health section. It's chapter number 1. And actually who you decide to be intimate with, or who you decide to put in your inner circle of people who you socialize with and interact with regularly, you're going to want them to be sound in these key areas. If you hang around sick people, well, eventually you're going to be resentment of it. Like, you're going to be sick yourself, more sick, or you're probably sick because those are the people that you choose to hang around. All right. So we want you to have great relationships. We want you to understand how to take care of your business, to provide for yourself, whether it's business or through employment. And then we want you to be a part of a development team that's driving the culture and community. Join yourself. And I'm not endorsing any organization right now, because I've seen organizations over the years and I pretty much know what they're doing or what they do. Now, while many organizations do good things, this is not the bash show. Many organizations, sororities, clubs, they do good things for people. But is it enough? Do they take it to the next level in relationships? Do they take it to the next level in community development? Do they take it to the next level in business ownership? Do they make sure you're effectively educated? What's the culture saying? The culture is saying that our culture is still suppressed. So it's like, well, who's overturning the negative effects of the negative things that continue to pummel us? So before you get defensive thinking about what your organization do, we mentor, we give scholarships, we share, we do all these things. Ask yourself those questions as it pertains to the main negative things or the main things that drive our culture, good, bad, or otherwise, in the culture of your cultural group and you collectively, not just your neighborhood or just your house or just your happenings, your people. How effective is it at empowering or overturning or setting the tone for a royal culture? How effective is it? So keep that in mind. Whatever program that you're a part of, is it overturning, especially if you're African? How effective is it at overturning the effects of slavery, prison, and imprisonment, and the modern day slavery program that was initiated from the abolishment of slavery. Slavery was abolished and the prison system came more into fruition to reverse the effects of slavery, the vagrancy laws. I mean, just all those things that happened to make sure that African people stayed in that suppressed position, subjugated under everybody. That's what the system does. So how effective is your organization at overturning those effects? I'll answer that for you. They hadn't been. Look at where we were then and look at where we are now. The only difference between then and now is that we're comfortable in our suppression. We're comfortable oppressed. We're comfortable at the bottom or amongst them. But this whole podcast is about becoming royal, becoming the top class or amongst the top classes. Not wasting time on condemning or working against anybody. I'm just coming from a positive position of let's do what we need to do to raise the standard and get to our royal selves. Period. In society. Let's get to our royal selves. Talk is cheap. You have to be about that work if you're going to do it. Okay? So, that's that. I hope all is well. Hopefully, you guys are going to share this video. You're going to like the video and join in. Just subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the page, and I appreciate your support. Go purchase a copy of the Matrix Project at the Amazon bookstore and keep following me. I expect this thing to improve and get better, and where we'll be able to better serve people in the will of God for my life and for the lives of all those who are involved in the vision that he gave me, that it's going to come to pass and it's going to be made better. Our lives are going to be made better as a result. Prosperity. We're going to fare well on our journey. So that's it for today. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for looking in. Like I said before, I'll be back this evening. I'm doing 6 sessions a day, so I understand if you can't make all of them, but I'm warring against this thing. I have to get these numbers and I have to get this message out. Tomorrow is not promised to me. So I'm doing this thing like my hair is on fire. That's the saying, right? I have no hair, but that's like my eyelashes, my eyebrows on fire, like my beard's on fire, like I'm going all out. So it doesn't seem real logical. I get it, but actually it makes quite good logic. So if you can't make all shows, I understand, but we're presenting it to the people because different people are available at different times. So that's the reason that we're doing what we're doing. But I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. We're about to head over to the Instagram presentation right now. So love you guys. Peace.